Hello, hello. Can you hear me there, Graham? Weirdly, I can't hear you through Clubhouse currently.
Good evening, or let me
just... Now I can, yep.
Why is that not picking up? Not picking up the external microphone. Let me just double check. Just going to unplug.
Okay, so if you're listening to us now in the Clubhouse room, then we are going to be very shortly talking about whether or not hypnosis can actually help you to lose weight. Can you physically lose weight from hypnosis? You can hear Graham clicking in the background. He's trying to get his external mic working. He's left and is going to rejoin us. So I think Graham's going to be, I'm going to put him on mute just while he's getting his microphone all sorted. So we're going to be talking about weight loss. We're going to be talking about metabolism. We're going to be talking about hunger. We're going to be talking about cravings. I'm personally fascinated by the idea that what happens to our physical bodies is somehow related to how we think and our emotions and the whole psychology of around it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Mind over platter. Can hypnosis really help us to lose weight? And for those hypnotherapists in the room, can it enable you to help your clients to lose weight, change their body shape, and that kind of stuff? As always, if you're listening right now, please tag and pin a few people that you might know that might benefit from this conversation, either because maybe they successfully lost weight with hypnosis, maybe they're hypnotherapists and they do a lot with weight loss, or maybe they've just got some kind of interesting anecdotes or something to share. So feel free to ping and invite a few people to join us in this conversation. Equally, although myself and Graham will be talking a lot and answering questions, we want to hear you. So at any point in time, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get you up on stage. And that could be a question for us. It could be an observation. It could be something you want to share. It could be your own personal experience, either losing weight or your struggles with weight, or anything indeed that you want to talk about. Let's check in with Graham. Graham, are you here? Are you able to talk? You know what's funny, Graham? I could hear you when you were setting up the mic, clicking away, and now I can't hear you. Hello, hello. I'm pretty sure Graham will join us.
I just realized. Can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
I pressed the button on the side of my microphone. What's the point of having posh microphones if you press the buttons wrong, eh? Everyone, welcome this evening. Apologies on the initial setup. Adam and I use a computer-based system called Club Deck, and it always, just as we log in, it says, do you want to update? And I accidentally pressed yes. So it kicked me out and caused some complications. But welcome this evening. Mind over platter, as Adam said, we're going to be talking about weight loss and hypnosis tonight. I've been on my own hypnosis weight loss journey. I may have shared it before. But yeah, let's get talking this evening. And most importantly, sharing information to each other. Maybe one of us may have a little wording, metaphorical state, or anything like that you can use with the client that really does assist them through that hypnosis journey when it comes to weight loss. So yeah. So Adam, obviously you very first, if I'm right, you're remembering what you said, when you very first got into hypnosis, you niched straight away for weight loss, didn't you? You went straight for hypnoslimming.com. Correct?
I did, yeah. Hypnoslimming. And for me, I was weighing up different niches, having a background in business and marketing. I knew that if you try and be a generalist in the world of hypnosis, you're no one to everyone, in which case you're going to struggle to build a business. So I intuitively knew that I needed to build a niche. What I didn't know is what would be the right niche. And I made a decision that rather than me deciding, because I think you hear that a lot, particularly in personal development. You've got to own your niche. You've got to find your passion. You've got to do all this kind of stuff. The problem with that is that there's an element of truth to that, but equally what it doesn't do is it doesn't factor in the market, it doesn't factor in the customer base. So what I decided to do, again, taking my background in marketing, is to say, well, look, I'm going to come up with 2 or 3 niches, build websites, build brands for all 3 niches. And I'm going to let the world decide what they want more of. So effectively I created a brand for weight loss called Hypnoslimming. I created a brand for phobias, which I didn't name at the time, but it ended up being called Phobia Guru. And then another one based around addictions. And I had 3 different sites. And what I found is 2 very different strategies worked for generating clients. Initially, I found that I could not compete from an SEO basis on Hypnoslimming. There were too many other websites out there, way more established, that had all the keywords that I wanted. So my strategy originally for generating clients for Hypnoslimming was a paid for click. It was Google AdWords. But I needed, I had that kind of learning experience where, to begin with, I had every keyword, cost me a fortune. I think I wasted 15 grand one month or something like that. And then I found that actually there's certain keywords that people will respond to: weight loss hypnosis, weight loss hypnotherapy, certain things. And that's how I kind of built that business in Harley Street. Phobia Guru had a whole different strategy. I never did paid ads for that, but I kind of found that PR and SEO and YouTube worked really well there. So pretty much for the first year and a half of hypnosis, virtually every single client that I worked with was a weight loss hypnosis client. And that's one of the benefits of niching, is that you get a lot of experience in a specific area, and that enables you to get better at that particular thing. But it also really helps from a marketing perspective, helps from a credibility, and it helps build rapport with clients because you really know the struggles that they're facing, because you see patterns. You work with enough people with the same issue, and then you can enter their world. And when you are able to almost like read their mind and say what they're thinking before they think it, then at that point, the battle's half won at that point. So yeah, did a lot on weight loss hypnosis. And before we open up to the audience, the one key insight that I wanted to share off the bat, can hypnosis really help to lose weight? A mistake that I see, and in the early days, I was looking at the weight loss hypnosis scripts that you can see on Hypnotic World and the likes. And the biggest mistake that I've seen is that there is a perception that it is about food, that it is about fatty food, it's about sugary food. And in my experience, it's way more about emotions than it is about food. And the example, when I speak to clients and I enter, their heads, and I say, look, I don't care if you're eating too many biscuits, too much chocolate, too much chips, too much crisps, whatever it is, your thinking is about the food. But if all the crisps disappeared tomorrow, you're going to find a different food to meet that emotional need. It's not about the food. And for me, my approach was always to get to the root cause. What causes the desire? For some people, it's boredom. For some people, it's, they see it, they feel a compelling desire to eat it, and then they eat it. There is a pattern that runs in certain circumstances. And if you can change that, you can change everything. So, I'll elaborate on a few different things that I learned over, even though I started really focusing on weight loss hypnosis, I continue to do weight loss hypnosis clients just from the website that I built and the kind of the credibility that I established in those early days. And you get so much word of mouth clients when you help someone lose a few stone, they tell everyone about it, which is a fantastic thing. So if you're in the audience right now and you've got something to say about weight loss or a question or a story that you'd like to share, please raise your hand. We'll get you up. But you did tease us a bit, Graham, saying that you've got a personal weight loss story. So let's hear that one.
Yeah. So when I very first trained on a hypnotherapy diploma with the UK Hypnosis Academy and Carl Smith, a very, very good friend of mine and fellow trainer, Bev Gisborne, assisted me. So at that time I was weighing just over 17 stone, maybe nearly 18 stone. And after that, I managed to, I'd always had trouble with weight, really. I'd had injuries and stuff through the army. and obviously had ballooned, and as well as eating habits, not concentrate as much on concentrate on more on what I was not to eat, or kind of, you could say, disassociating away from the crappy foods and things as well. But at the same time, mental motivation. So when I was doing physical exercise, I was pushing myself more and stuff like that, to the point where in the space of, I think it was over 3 months, I lost 3 stone. And I kept it off for about 3 or 4 years. I have put a little bit on, a little bit of comfort. But yeah, I'd gone down to 90, I think it was 92 kilograms in the end. I was 117 at first. I now sit in the middle. I sit at 100 kilograms, which I can maintain every day. And, some people, you could say I look big. Other people, say I look good. However it may be, but I'm comfortable with where I am. I'm not trying to breathe in all the time to hold everything in place. So I definitely managed to manage what I wanted a lot more in that sort of way. So that was great. Yeah. So that's pretty much my story. And it gave me exactly what you said a minute ago. And I've said it, well, we've said it many, many times. If you can get in the head of the client, that power, that magical power of being able to tell them what they are thinking before you even start the session, you're one ahead. You're massively one ahead. Their belief systems fly through the roof, to the point where they really want to be able to understand and manage everything. And if you're saying these 1 or 2 little buzzwords that sits with them, that's it. As far as I'm concerned, you've got them, and they're going to really, really relate to that hypnosis session a hell of a lot more. But rather than me whining on for a little while, Sally, welcome up to the stage. What would you like to share with everybody?
Well, I've not worked with weight loss up till now, because it's not something that really I was sort of interested in. I mean, I've suffered with my weight, in the past, and I've never actually been on a diet or anything like that. I tend to have lost weight when I've been in sort of negative situations, if that makes sense, because I don't eat properly. I don't, and I've tended to lose weight that way. And I know that's not the healthiest way to do it, obviously. And you see a lot about weight loss being about trauma. But not having dealt with it myself, I just wondered, where you would start, if that makes sense, with a client. What sort of questions would you ask?
I mean, I'm happy to jump in here. I mean, I've done, probably coming up to about 200 weight loss clients, and I would say I always start with the consultation call. That's how I start with every client, because I want to make sure it's okay to work with them. And there's 2 key things that I really want to figure out in that consultation call. Actually, 3 key things. I want to find out why they want to lose weight. I've got to find their motive. And what you tend to find is that there's a few different motives. Generally for men, and I would probably say less than 10% of all the clients that I worked with on weight loss were men. Vast majority were women. For men, it tends to be for health reasons. It's a big generalization, but it's what I found. And for women, it tends to be emotional reasons like confidence and self-esteem and feeling good in their own bodies. That tends to be the general rule. Quite often, the trigger for men to want to lose weight is a health reason. Doctors told them they're at risk of type 2 diabetes. They've had a heart attack or some kind of scare or something like that. And that's a big motive for men. For women, again, it tends to be more emotional reasons. They look at a photo of themselves and then they see how much weight they've gained compared to a different photo and those kind of things. So I want to figure out why, because once I know why they want to lose weight, I can work with that. The second thing, I want to find out if the game is winnable. So I'll say, look, where are you now? And I keep it broad because I want to use their language. Do they tell me in kilos? Do they tell me in pounds? Do they tell me in stones? Do they tell me in dress size? I want to know where they are. And then I'll say, look, in order for you to consider that working with me has been successful, where would you need to get to? So I'm trying to future pace and prime them already that we are going to be working together, and that I want to make sure the game is winnable because I want lots of referrals and word of mouth at the end of it. And then let's say they say currently they're, 12 stone. I prefer it when they think in kilos because I think in kilos. So let's say they say they're, I don't know, 100 kilos and they want to get to 80 kilos. I'll say, right, what's the least you've weighed in the last 5 years? And sometimes they'll tell me, oh, like 95, like they haven't weighed the weight they want to in the last 5 years. So then I say, right, step one, if we can get you weighing, being the best and most desirable weight for you that you've had in the last 5 years, would you consider that a success? And what I want them to do is I want them to get into their minds that progress is better than perfection. That's one of the traps that I've seen with weight loss clients, is that it's all or nothing. They either want to look great in a size 8, kind of dress, or they don't, or they can't be asked with the whole thing. And then that makes it a very, very challenging goal, because sometimes the weight that they want to be is the weight that they were when they were 24 years old and they're now 40 something. And that's unrealistic for them to get to. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but once they've got to the best weight they've ever been in the last 5 years, then they can get to the best weight they've ever been in the last 10 years. And then we can work from there. It's easier to cross the river if you're 5 stepping stones in than if you've got to make it in one jump. So I want a reality check. And sometimes I'll say to them, let's say they want to lose 20 kilos. Here's what I tend to do. I say, look, 1 kilo of body fat is 7,700 calories. Okay. 20 kilos means that you've got around about 144,000 calories of stored energy in your body fat cells. For a woman, generally she needs about 2,000 calories to maintain weight, which means if there's a famine and there's no food for 77 days, you're going to survive because you can live off that body fat. So the idea that you're going to lose weight in a month, given that it would take over 2 months if there was just no food whatsoever, you've got to think this is going to be a longer term thing. So I'm managing their expectations, but also letting them know, I know how energy works. I know, the law of thermodynamics, energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. To get them thinking that there is 2 ways of losing that fat. Either you force the body to lose fat, which is fad diets. It's calorie deficit by huge amounts. It's basically starving the body, or you train the body to burn fat. Because I don't just want to help them lose weight. I want to help them to lose weight in a really healthy, sustainable way where they keep it off and it becomes part of their lifestyle. So I'm asking those type of questions. So why do they want to lose weight? Where do they want to get to that would be happy for them? And then the third question I ask in that initial call is, what have they tried? What have they tried that's worked? And what have they tried that hasn't worked? Because otherwise I could be encouraging them to implement yet another strategy which is destined to fail. And then if they tell me something that's worked, I want to know what then made it stop working. And then, because I want to pre-handle all the things that could fuck it up in the future, so they might say, oh, I lost all this weight, I was feeling great. But then, and then they'll tell me whatever their strategy is for failure or for cravings or whatever it might be. So those are the kind of questions I ask in the early days. But then in that first session, for me, what I found is that there are 2 essential ingredients to start a weight loss journey. One is a resourceful state. And as hypnotherapists, we're very aware of that. It's very difficult to do something if you're feeling unresourceful from day one. You're going to sabotage it. But what can activate a resourceful state is a compelling vision of the future. And you'd be surprised at how many clients want to lose weight, but they don't know what losing weight will look like, feel like, or be like for them. So you need that compelling vision for the future. And that's why so many, more often women than men, are able to lose weight for big events like a wedding, like a big party, like a summer holiday, because they're able to create a really clear vision of what that future looks like and how they want to be in that future image. They've got a compelling vision for their future. And so many clients that I've worked with were successfully able to lose weight for a wedding, but then they gained it all back on. What's the difference? Main difference is they lost that compelling vision for the future because it was now in their past. It was now a memory rather than something they're moving towards. So for me, I use the NLP approach of modeling successful strategies within the client's own life so that they can then reactivate them in a new context. I tend to find that helpful. First of all, does that make sense? And is that helpful, Sally, at all?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I said I've not weight through a diet. I mean, I can remember that I did go and have hypnosis for weight loss, and all I can remember about that at the time, it was a long time ago, mind, so things have moved on since then, techniques, etc., was that I was told to, or suggested, that I eat slowly and chew the food for longer. And I think that stuck with me for a while, but then it wore off. So unless somebody has a compelling reason to lose weight for good, rather than just one-off event, like you said, for a wedding or whatever, then, how long can that last? If you know what I mean, it's got to have.
I can see Graham's taking his. I can see Graham's taking his microphone mute off. So I'm just going to address that really quickly before I pass over to Graham.
Yeah.
How long can it last? Here's the key thing. I think there's two metaphors that generally people have when it comes to hypnosis. One is magic that wears off. That's a metaphor subconsciously. A lot of us are kind of running with hypnosis. How long will it last? When will it wear off? The second thing is to look at it at learning. So when you learn to ride a bike or when you learn to walk, when did that wear off? It never wears off. And once you learn something new, and I use the metaphor of touch typing. So sometimes I ask, what someone's profession is. And if it's in an office, I'll say, do you know how to touch type? And they say, yes. And I say, well, look, when you first started learning how to touch type, it was more difficult than doing it the old way. But then eventually it clicked into place and you were able to touch without looking at the keyboard, and you were able to do it 4 or 5 times faster than you were before. And I said, look, could you go back to typing with just 2 fingers? And they're like, well, yeah, I could. But I said, but why would you? Once you've learned a better way of doing something, why would you go back to the less efficient way of doing it? So if you follow the metaphor of learning, well, once you've learned a better way, you never go back. Why would you? If you unconsciously follow the metaphor of magic that wears off, then subconsciously, that's going to be a post-hypnotic suggestion that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that it will indeed wear off. So I want to prime them to think of this in terms of a learning metaphor rather than a magic metaphor right from the start, so that when I give them their suggestions, they've like, why would I go back to the less efficient way of doing it when I found this way that actually works? But that suggestion of eat slow, eat mindfully, chew your food, I mean, that's a great suggestion. But the problem is you need to link it to an emotion for it to self-perpetuate. So otherwise, it will wear off because you have to remember and remind yourself to eat slowly. But if you have a suggestion that links it to an emotion, every time you really chew your food slowly and pay attention to the food that you eat, you notice that you can get so much more flavor and joy from that food. Well, if you do, and that's how senses work. When you pay attention to a sense, you get more of that experience. Well, then it becomes self-perpetuating. So if every time you really chew your food, you get more flavor, why would you chew it any other way? That's the best way to chew your food. And I use a metaphor of saying, look, let's say that you bought really expensive tickets for the theatre, front row tickets, you spent a couple of £100. What would it be like to have the best tickets in the house and spend the whole show looking at your phone? Could you ever imagine doing that? And they're like, I would never do that. Not if I had the best tickets. I want to have all my attention on the show. And I say, okay, do you ever eat food and watch TV at the same time? Do you ever eat food so quickly that you don't pay attention to the taste? And once I can get them thinking that actually eating food and not paying attention to the taste is a waste, they're paying the price of the calories, but not really getting the enjoyment, then it's difficult for them to think of eating in any other way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Thank you, Adam.
No worries. But Graham, I noticed you took your mute off, so over to you.
Yeah. My problem is I have this disorder that all of a sudden makes me forget exactly what I was going to say, but no. So the big thing with the client as well is, and the way I like to work with them, it's very much like what you said there, Adam, a very massive amount of education to the factor, but also it's about creating that bond with themselves. If the person hasn't got a bond with themselves, they're never going to change. And I like to put it into multi-level. The first one is about their size. If the person believes they are fat, they are going to stay fat because that's how they are. But the other thing is, though, some people think they are fat or fatter than what they actually are. And I'm going to use that terminology because, usually some of the people you work with have gained significant weight, but they still may not be fat, like, clinically massively obese. They may just have a little bit of, wedding comfort or whatever the wording is that you like to have. But because of things have changed, they've had kids or whatever like that, to them, they are fat. And so I like to break that mold a little bit. Utilizing any protocol, I like to use kinetic shift. I get the person to look at themselves in a mirror. And as soon as they've looked at themselves in the mirror, and you get that, the way they sigh away from the mirror straight away, not because they don't want to look at their body. And that's another thing. I make sure they look at their body. Women look at themselves in the mirror every single day, but they only look from the neck up when they're doing the makeup. And I'm sure some of you may be laughing now, thinking how true that is. Actively get them to look at the body, get them to look at the areas they really don't want to pay attention to. Now, we as therapists all know that the areas we don't look to, our subconscious mind fills in them areas. Although we can see our hands moving in our peripheral visions, it's actually our brain making up what it believes it can see in that area. It can't actually focus on it. It's like when you're on a train and you try and stare at all the fence posts that go past, you'll see how someone's eyes flicker really, really, really quickly. But if you hold a finger in front of your eyes, you'll actually see how the eyes can smoothly stay locked on one focus. And because it's the way the brain works, it has to be able to, it can't focus on everything dead quick. And so get the person to look at themselves in the mirror. And at that point, do some sort of therapy work on that feeling. Like I said, I like to use kinetic shift. So whatever that feeling is, I'll alter it in the way of what suits for that, and get it to deplete. But then what I like to do is change it for a different factor. I don't leave them there thinking, right, okay, yeah, I'm not bothered about myself in the mirror anymore. What I do is I take away the factor that they call themselves fat and embed to the fact that they are now a work in project. Because if someone hasn't got a process already in place, it's very much like what Adam said, you're already trying to future pace for what they are. If you've got a working project that they are, then from now until whenever they reach whatever said goal they want to reach, and I've took some stuff there from Adam, like, you could always have this future goal, but may not necessarily be fully achievable. If you have this goal that they're going to work towards, if they're a working project towards it, then they're going to keep on that working project factor. And all of a sudden, you've broken that little chain of them being fat anymore. And as we know, typically the way we think in our brain, that we tend to follow it. So because of that, now you've all of a sudden changed that mental aspect. And I like to put them back in front of the mirror, and all of a sudden they can look at it. And when they feel that little bit of a difference, I like to ask them, are you fat? What I always ask for is whatever the brain says back to them first. And because sometimes they say yes, and I say, but what did your head say, your brain, whatever? And I say, it said no. I was like, well, so why didn't you listen to it? It's very much back to that whole thing of eating the food but not tasting it. Why didn't you listen to your brain? Surely that's the thing that knows more about what it actually is, that because that's your association. And then obviously the rest of the whole session that I like to do, I like to tag everything onto that factor of listen to yourself and listen to what it's saying. Because by the time we finish the session and we've done the multiple areas of working with them and anchoring and associating many other things, then you need to ensure that by the time they're finishing this lesson, the horse has been led to water and now it's actually starting to drink it as best as it can. Now, one of the things, exactly what you said, clients can easily drop off from this. And in some cases, I want them to. And the reason I want them to is because later on, I want, let's say it could be 6-12 months down the line. I want to then question to them what has actually changed in that time, other than the way they were thinking, the way they were looking after themselves, the way they believed in themselves, the way they actually looked themselves in the mirror. But typically, and this is, again, I've worked with a lot of females over the years. The main reason why people tend to end up gaining weight again is because they've got to a point where they've looked so good, they've ended up getting a lot more male attention. And one of the male attentions they got is the negative male attention from a husband who's now jealous that other men are showing them attention. So then puppy fat, shall we say, gets put back on. So then both sides of the story end up feeling comfortable. And that can be something to keep in mind as well, that, you know, one of the questions I like to pose right at the very start is, what is the one thing you wouldn't like someone to ask you about losing weight? Because it's quite a very deep question straight away. What is that one thing you wouldn't like someone to ask you? Because guess what I'm going to do straight after? I'm going to ask that, because we need to address that situation. Why is it you've not? Why haven't you lost weight before? What is the areas that you don't like about yourself for your weight? You need to really get into that deep emotional factor. You can work complete content free, and yeah, it does work. But the more you've got, the more leverage you've got to be able to work onto them aspects, to be able to really know the client even more and do it and really target them areas. Sally, does that help you for pointers?
Yeah. How many sessions do you do? I was thinking about when you were saying about, do you go into nutrition side of it more? I mean, because I've not had anything to do with that really. So have you, done any training in nutrition itself, or is it? So I'm not a nutritionist. I've not done any learning in nutrition. I guide them towards if they wanted nutrition, different things on the market that I may know of, but some that's moved on now, so I wouldn't necessarily rate it as much. But what I would say to them is, feel free to learn it yourself. But like I say, most importantly, I like to leave them with a suggestion of a mind-body connection. Yeah. And that mind-body connection will also go from the head to the stomach as well. We all know about the hypnogastric band and everything like that. I like to do a very small aspect of that, where to the point where they can actually control themselves from feeling hungry to feeling full. And if they can manage that by themselves and listen to themselves at the same time, then everything else just becomes codswallop around them. The thing that they think they were hungry, or the thing that they think that they needed this or they needed that, or the thing that they thought it was fat. If you're all of a sudden shooting it out of the water, then what is it that they were actually believing in originally that made them in that way? And like I say, if you can give that person, and like I say, most of my clients have been women, if you can give them that bit of freedom of that they can start concentrating on themselves, they'll find themselves in a different light. And you tend to find that they have a much more accelerated success rate. When it comes to guiding them towards fitness, I could probably count on one hand how many people have actually took up the fitness route, but they've all still managed to lose weight. Yes, don't get me wrong, I may put some suggestions of aversion, keeping away from some stuff as much, but at the same time, I'm also just guiding them to eating when your stomach says you're hungry and your brain says, yes, you're ready for eating, by doing that. And also another small thing is allowing your stomach to rumble. Because if your stomach's rumbling, it's doing its job of digesting what's already there. Rumble does not necessarily mean eat. So, yeah. Adam, have you got anything on top of that?
Yeah, I mean, because I had so many weight loss hypnosis clients, I mean, virtually all my clients were weight loss hypnosis for about the first year and a half, 2 years. So I decided to learn quite a bit on nutrition. And what I found is that, it's a rabbit hole. You can learn more and more and more, but complexity is not conducive to suggestions that stick. So you've got to simplify, all of the different kind of elements. So what I think is learning, if you start doing a lot of weight loss hypnosis, is the macros. So generally you've got, the macro food groups, which are fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And within carbohydrates, you've effectively got colors that they give the carbohydrates to make it easy to remember. So you've got white carbs, beige carbs, and green carbs. And generally speaking, someone that is overweight probably has quite a high proportion of their diet from white carbs. White carbs effectively are refined carbohydrates. So it's things like chips, crisps. If you think of flour, for example, that's a refined carbohydrate. If you think of sugar, that's a refined carbohydrate. They're both white. So white carbs are those kind of food. So generally speaking, what I try and elicit is what percentage of their diet is coming from white carbs? And if that's a high percentage, well, then the strategy is, how do we reduce that? And the ideal thing to replace it with, because some people have this kind of addiction to carbs. It's like, I need the carbs. Eating carbs isn't a problem. The problem is eating lots of white carbs. You can't get overweight eating green carbs. And sometimes I'll challenge them. I'll say, right, I'm going to challenge you to eat as much green carbs as you possibly can. I want you to binge on green carbs. What are green carbs? Salads, vegetables, and fruits. Come back in 2 weeks and see if you've gained weight if you eat as much of this food as you possibly can. Because one of the key things that can scupper a weight loss plan is fear of scarcity. It's fear of, oh, I'm going to be hungry all the time. There isn't enough food. I'm not allowed this. If you look at the language, I mean, when you work in this area, your ears become very attuned. The reticular activating system, goes into overdrive, and you overhear conversations on weight loss. And one of the key things that come out when someone says they're on a diet or they're losing weight, people say, what can't you eat? What are you allowed? Are you allowed this? Can you have that? And it's all based on this idea of scarcity. So you want, in my opinion, one of the key things that you need to do is to pre-handle that by saying, look, the way to lose weight isn't by ruling out all this stuff. It's just kind of replacing things that you don't like anyway. Because a lot of people are eating foods that don't give them huge amounts of pleasure and give them loads of calories and spike their insulin. So it's about replacing it. And the average person has at least 10 foods in the green carb section, not that they like, but they love. They absolutely love them. There'll be a fruit that they love. There'll be a vegetable that they love. There'll be a certain thing that's a green carbohydrate that they absolutely love, but they don't eat it very often. So if you can increase the amount of green carbohydrates, it's easier. I also do talk about the main strategies, because one of the things that is necessary, hypnosis on itself won't help anyone lose weight. It's hypnosis plus an effective strategy. That's what's going to help someone lose weight. And I say, look, there are only a few tried and tested, scientifically tested ways of losing weight. What's the commonality between all of these effective ways? Yes, you need to be in calorie deficit. You need to eat less calories than you consume. That's standard. But beyond calorie deficit, what are the key strategies? Can you lose weight eating a lot of protein? Yeah, it's called Atkins or paleo. You have 50, 60% of your diet comes from protein. Can you lose weight eating a lot of fat? Yeah, you can. It's called ketogenic, keto. If 60, 70% of your calories come from fat, you can also lose weight because your body creates more ketones. The ketones know where to find the energy from the body fat, and you can do that. Can you lose weight on carbs? Yeah, you can, so long as 70% of your diet comes from green carbohydrates rather than refined carbohydrates. So any of these strategies can work. What needs to be there is consistency. If you go from paleo one day to keto the next day to high carb the next day, the body doesn't know what the fuck is going on. It can't get used to processing energy in a particular way consistently, and then it's doomed to failure. So it's about finding out what's the most effective strategy for an individual. The other strategy, of course, is increasing cardio, increasing calorie consumption or calorie exertion through exercise. But there is a saying, and that is, the six pack is made in the kitchen, not in the gym. So 80% of weight loss really is diet, not exercise. So I agree with Graham. Can exercise help? Yeah, it can help. It really can, particularly in building a new identity for a client. Is it the most effective way of losing weight? No, absolutely not. The most effective way of losing weight is having a low insulin environment for your blood. What's the biomechanic way for bodies to store fat? Basically, excess calories and high insulin. What creates high insulin? It's basically high glycemic foods. It's the sugar and the starchy vegetables that spike the insulin, and it turns excess energy into fat. Therefore, how do you train the body to burn fat? Well, you have a calorie deficit. You have a low insulin environment. How do you get a low insulin environment? It's pretty much massively reducing white carbohydrates. If you have that, you're going to lose weight. It's as simple as that. So yeah, a little bit of knowledge of nutrition is helpful it isn't essential as a hypnotherapist, because here's what I've learned. Most people already know this stuff. They already know that like too much refined carbohydrates are going to make them gain weight. Too much sugar is going to make them gain weight. Too much alcohol is going to make them gain weight. And they also know that if they have more of these lean protein foods or healthy fats like avocados and eggs and things like that, they're going to lose weight. They already know that. So the key thing really becomes, how do you get them feeling highly resourceful? And one thing that I found when people have tried and failed to lose weight numerous times is they start believing that they can't lose weight. The locus of control has left them and is kind of no longer in them. And they think, oh, I can't do this anymore. And there's two key things that I say to kind of, one, interrupt their pattern. And secondly, get them believing that they have got the ability to lose weight. And the first is that when they tell me their current weight, I say, do you know how many clients that's the weight they wanted to get to be successful? And I've had people like come into Harley Street, 22 stone, 24 stone. They want to get to 14 stone. And I've had clients that are 14 stone that want to get to 11 stone. So if they hear firsthand that actually where they are currently is where other people want to get to, that makes them feel good. And generally, if you can get clients feeling good, that's a good place to start. And then a question that I ask, if I think they've got children, I'll say, look, do you have children? If they say yes, I say, look, just imagine an evil wizard comes down from a cloud, takes your kids and says, right, you're only going to see your kids again if you lose 2 stone. Could you do it? And they know they could do it. They know that by different choices, they could easily lose that weight. And that's important, because then the strategy is not important. They already know the strategy that's going to work for them, because if they needed to, they could absolutely do it. The problem is that they're conflicted. They've got a part of them really wants to lose weight, but part of them loves eating pizza. Part of them loves having curries, loves drinking Prosecco. That's where the issue is. It's conflicted priorities and conflicted parts that, they want to lose the weight, but they also want to drink the beer and they also want to eat the takeaways. That's where it becomes a problem.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all that. That's like, not having dealt with that before, that's really good advice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. So if you're in the audience and you've got maybe a weight loss story, maybe you've got something you want to share, maybe a client that you've worked with, to help them lose weight, or if you disagree with anything that either myself or Graham's said so far, raise your hand. We'll get up on stage. We'll have a chat about that. In the same way that Graham's got a weight loss story, part of why I chose weight loss is that I used to eat loads of crap. I've definitely got a sweet tooth. I eat or it certainly did eat lots of sugar, ruined my teeth and wasn't so good for my body. I could get away with it when I was a teenager because I had like 5 paper rounds and I used to cycle to school. So at that point, you can get away with eating a lot of crap and you don't really gain weight. But that was different when suddenly, I'm in an office all day kind of working. And for me, changing how I thought about food and having a compelling vision for the future enabled me to kind of get really good at training my body to burn fat. And those people that follow me on social media probably have seen a few pictures of kind of like before and after pictures where, definitely I was overweight. Definitely I had too much flab on me. But you can quite quickly train your body to have, even if the weight stays the same, but you've got a higher proportion of muscle mass and a lower proportion of body fat percentage, it completely changes how you look. Even if your weight stays exactly the same, and it's not always about weight. Sometimes body fat percentage, I would say, is a much more better metric than weight or BMI because it really shows what's going on, whereas weight doesn't always show that. And you get ridiculous, things sometimes where they'll show, picture with identical BMI, but one of them is like a professional athlete and someone's like really overweight. Why is that? Because they've got more muscle mass, and muscle weighs about 4 times the amount as fat. So it has a big difference on weight. So being overweight, is a very old school way of thinking about it. I think body fat percentage is a much more useful framework to see progress. And generally, for men, it's good to have body fat percentage normally between about 10 and 18%. And for women, normally about 5% more because they naturally carry more body fat. So, you know, for those people really interested in weight loss hypnosis, you know, excuse the pun, it's a huge market. You know, it is one of the things that is such an emotive thing, and so many people want to lose weight, but they don't know how. One thing I'm going to, you know, just because we don't have anyone joining us up on stage at the moment, one metaphor that I've seen very frequently, it'd be interesting to hear if you've had one as well, that comes up consistently for you, Graham, but the metaphor that comes up time and time again when people are losing weight is they are playing snakes and ladders inside their own head. That somehow they could be making great choices for weeks, walking every day, drinking lots of water, eating salads. But if they have like a takeaway and they drink too much alcohol over a weekend, in their head, and even out loud, they say, oh, I went all the way back to square one. It's like they've literally landed on a snake and they've gone all that. Now, if you're playing an internal game of snakes and ladders and you feel that weeks of progress have disappeared on one bad meal, how motivated are you going to be if you feel it's going to take you another 5 weeks to get back to exactly where you were before? It's like they've teleported back in time. So one of the things that I try and do with clients is get them thinking of a much more beneficial metaphor, and that is of a journey. And one of the things that I use the metaphor of a motorway and say, look, you know, if you're on a motorway and you're in the you know, in the UK, the far right lane, you're in the overtaking lane, you're going to be making more progress and you're going to get to your destination quicker than if you're in the middle lane, and you're going to be making more progress in the middle lane than if you're on the left-hand lane, but you're still making progress. And I want you to think of what a level 10 out of 10 diet would look like. Like if you were eating perfectly, what would that look like? And they tell me, and I say, and what would a really good diet look like, but not perfect? And I get them thinking that's the middle lane. And I say, right, what's a reasonably good diet that you're still going to lose weight, but it's by no means perfect whatsoever? And I position that as kind of the left-hand lane of the motorway. And I say, look, all three lanes are going to get you to your destination as long as you don't slam on the brakes and turn around in the other direction. That's what's going to get you. Because I need to prime them not to think that they need to be perfect to get to their destination. Perfection is a killer when it comes to weight loss. This idea that you're not allowed to eat shit ever, you know, or one bad meal means that you can't win the game. That's a killer. If people just stick to having a reasonably good diet the majority of the time, they're going to lose weight. They're going to look fantastic. They're going to feel great. Irene, welcome up on stage.
Hello. Hello. Very interesting.
Good evening.
Hi, Graham. Hope you're both well. It's a really interesting conversation. I'm like Sally. I've not embarked on seeing anyone for weight loss yet, but I think it probably will come. Part of what I do with women with self-love, part of that is around body image. And I have seen people before as a coach for who have said, oh, I really need to lose weight. And some women have unrealistic views of their body that don't accept that a body is a cyclical thing. Like, I'm 46, I've had a couple of kids. I'm not the same size that I was when I was 21. And I think that sometimes we have to accept that that's just how it is, that a body is a cyclical thing, particularly women's bodies, that they are, like we are, cyclical beings. So the body changes, and with that it changes shape, it changes size, and that can be from week to week, and it's obviously from month to month. But also what I'd like to ask is how do we fit that in? But also, if you have someone, for example, someone who comes to you and you think that they don't have to lose weight, but they want to come to you for weight management, what do you do with someone like that? Because I had a lady once, and she was really slim, but she was not happy because she could not fit into this particular dress, and she was not a size 8 and hadn't been for quite a long time. So I just wonder how you address those.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it comes back to the start of what we said today, Irene. So one part of it is exactly what Adam said. What was the least that you weighed in the last 5 years? And obviously whatever their target or whatever their position was back then, obviously making a realistic outcome of it is to say, would that have got you into your size 8? The other thing as well is very much what I mentioned before about making that relationship with the person that they see in the mirror. Many women put their makeup on every single morning and they look at themselves in the mirror, but they will not look past the neck down because they don't like the sight of what they see. And as you said before, you've had a couple of kids yourself, and a lot of women take their stretch marks for a story. That's how I like to look at my wife. My wife has beautifully provided 3 children for me, and I take so much joy to that factor. But some people look at it and go, "Oh my God, it's terrible," or whatever it may be. And it's about changing that story, whatever the story is for it, and the emotion that goes with it. And if you can make a positivity in the fact that whether it is that you talk to them and say, what's your children's names and how much do you love them and how much do just to make them realize that factor is in place, and it was well worth the journey. And obviously if you can change that fact that they're massive, whatever it may be, it all comes down to your consultation. Obviously you can say, I don't believe you need weight loss, because looking at you're a more than good enough size. You're not. It's not like you're clinically obese or anything like that. Like Adam said before, you're actually typically at a weight where people say they want to get to. I know it may not be when you was 21 again, or all these different sort of cliched comments a little bit, and obviously saying how people do change and for different ways. And then, like I say, it's more about working then on that on the emotional side of it. Whether you're going to detox them, where you're going to take them back to say, look, yes, you was 21 and you did have this. You may even realize now that you actually missed your opportunity to show off that aspect now. But what can you show off? What is it that you've got now that you can show off? Starting with your 3 children or however many children, and also being proud of the fact that you carried your 3 children, and the fact that you will still work on yourself for self-pride, but looking at yourself and thinking, you're happy with where you are, and very much like, and it's very good for your niche as well, as from what you said a minute ago, self-love for women. You can very much make this a very great balance in how it and for how it works. Does that make sense for you, Irene?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Do you think that you would address something like that then at that consultation stage, at the first call, before you even would take them on as a client then?
I'd suggest it. I'd definitely suggest what you think. I am a very, very open person. I don't try and just say, I think this might be where it was or this where. I like to say pretty much straight as to what the person's going to get from me. I know Sally asked before, I typically would work very minimum 2 sessions, up to 3 sessions for weight loss, because that allows for the work, to check up to see how it is, and then a 3rd week to make sure that everything's on track with it. But yeah, I'd say to them, look, I don't believe it's weight management that you require. I believe it's much more for self-love, mental detoxing sort of level for that aspect. Adam, I can see you nodding along there.
Well, I'm partly nodding, but from a different perspective, because I've tried that before when I've kind of taken my projection, and I've worked with some really big overweight people, and I've worked with people that are size 10s and they want to be size 6s, and what I learn is that if I start to project what I think is a good weight for them, then it breaks rapport instantly and doesn't do me any favors at all, doesn't do them any favors. So the way I build rapport is I say, look, my goal is to help you achieve whatever your goal is. Where do you want to get to? And from that point, rapport is aligned. And then I can start eliciting from them what the real goal is. And one of the great questions that I've learned to elicit what the real thing is it weight loss or is it something emotional? Is I give them an ultimatum. I give them a dilemma. And I said, look, if I could get you to this target weight of yours, but you're just as miserable as you are now, or you're at the exact weight that you are now, but you're really happy, full of self-esteem, and you're really content and happy in your own skin, and you could only choose one of those, what do you choose? And it's an interesting thing because many people, particularly more women than men, have a belief system that the only way that they can be happy is if they lose weight. And by me framing it that, well, if the option is you get to be happy, but only at your current weight, or you get to be miserable at this new weight, what do you choose? For the first time, perhaps in their entire life, they are disconnecting happiness with weight. And I tell them, there are people, big, beautiful people, happy in their own skin at a much bigger weight than you. So therefore it's possible to be happy. But if you had to choose, what would you choose? And you can see the conflict in their faces. They're like, oh, right, well, I do want to be happy, but I do want to be that way. And I said, look, the goal is to get you to both. But if you could only choose one of them, what do you choose? And then they admit that actually what they really want is to be happy. And at that point, I say, well, look, here's the trap that most people fall into. They are trying to lose weight to be happy, whereas the most effective way to lose weight is to happily lose weight. Because how do people gain weight? People gain weight by happily eating crap because it makes them feel good in the moment. And the side effect of that is that they gain weight. That's a winning strategy to change your weight. So if you feel great about eating certain foods and doing certain exercises, the consequence of that is you're going to lose weight. But you can happily lose weight, or you can lose weight to try and be happy. The problem is trying to lose weight in order to be happy makes it a finishing line. And a finishing line means that the moment people get to that finishing line, they're going to revert back to all the behaviors that they had before because it was only ever a temporary method. And that's how people yo-yo diet, and they spend their whole life, in a constant state of anxiety and struggle to lose weight, to be happy for a fleeting moment. They get the compliments, they feel good, they eat crap, they gain weight, and then they're trying to chase this mirage again and again and again. And it's not a sustainable system. And I'll say to them, look, the people that have to motivate themselves to go to the gym to lose weight, they don't go to the gym for very long. But you'll see people in the gym that are there not to lose weight, but they just love working out and they love the social element, and they love the exercise. And the side effect of that is that they happen to have slimmer bodies. They have different bodies, and I want to position, the solution not as a diet. Diets are terrible things that the body treats like a famine, and it trains the body to slow its metabolism down. The goal isn't a diet. The goal is a different relationship with food that reflects the different relationship they have with themselves. And Irene, if your niche is self-love, weight loss, you're gonna help people lose weight by getting them to love themselves more. Because someone that truly loves themselves, here's the thing: if a parent loves their child, would they give that child poison? Would they give it rat poison? Not a chance. So love is about caring. It is about thoughtfulness. People need to love themselves more, because if they did, they're going to eat better and they're going to enjoy their bodies more and they're going to exercise more. And the side effect of that is their bodies are going to completely change shape, and the self-esteem comes from that kind of better relationship that you have with your own body. So your niche is going to lend itself very, very well to weight loss.
Yeah, it definitely does. I know on my own journey towards self-love is that the way I treat my body is a lot more different to the way I used to. I used to try to control it quite a lot, and now through food and exercise. And now I don't. I just do the exercise when I feel called to it, when I feel like I will enjoy it, and listen to my body and tune into my body first. And same with food. My choices are healthier. Can't deny that I have the odd bit of chocolate, but I don't drink hardly anymore. alcohol wise. And yeah, it does, the two do go hand in hand. I guess what I was probably getting at was partially on the ethical side of things, because
just to jump in there very quickly, Irene, I've worked with the situation closest to that. I've worked with a few people that it was almost kind of Munchausen syndrome. The mother of two teenage daughters took them to me because she told them and me that I need to use hypnosis to help them losing weight. They didn't need to lose weight. You know, one of them had bulimia, but I think it was more to kind of deal with all the kind of stress of being told that, you know, she was too fat by her mum. And what I said is that, you know, I work with clients one-to-one. You know, you're happy to wait in the waiting room, but you know, my client, you know, is there. You know, you'll know they're safe because you're, you know, just on the other side of the door. And what I found is that they didn't need to lose weight. They didn't want to lose weight. What they wanted was less stress, less anxiety. So if I do feel like it's an eating disorder, you know, my job then is to maintain rapport, but to get to the root cause, because anyone with an eating disorder has already been told by countless other people, they don't need to lose weight. They're doing this wrong. That's not going to help them. You need to enter their world. And once you've got that rapport and you've built that trust, then you can start working with the real root cause problems. Because an eating disorder, quite often, you know, if it's binge eating disorder, generally that's from a disassociated state. You know, there are high levels. People binge eating can't remember eating so much food a lot of the time. They say things like, and then I looked up and there was no ice cream left in the container. And it's like, that's proper full on disassociation. They're in a hypnotic trance. That's amnesia. It's a hypnotic phenomenon that's taking place there. So I feel like trying to judge and tell the client what they should do and what they have to do, generally in my experience, not only does it not help, it helps from a righteous point of view, because you can say, oh, right, and I refuse to work with this client because they didn't need to lose weight. It doesn't help the client, and it doesn't build rapport with the client because you're not entering their world. You're just yet another voice telling them what they're doing wrong. But if you really enter their world and say, look, you know, I'm happy to help you figure out whatever is causing this issue, and you keep it broad enough, then sometimes you get to the root cause of whatever's causing that. And generally, a lot of eating disorders come from, you know, self-image issues. It comes from, you know, anxiety. It comes from stress. It's the coping strategies, a lot of cases. But that element of, you know, refusing to work with a client or telling them that they shouldn't, I agree with the intention behind it, but, you know, it's about finding an elegant way of actually helping the client get to where they want to get to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Thank you both.
No worries.
Great question now, Irene.
Really great question. Yeah.
And so much so we've actually gone past when we was going to finish tonight as well. So as predicted, really, Adam, we knew this subject would bring a lot of conversation, and it really does show how much you have worked with them clients as well. And just these different little ideas. Hopefully everyone listening in does take a little bit of gold dust each from each one of them, and just work on it. If you haven't had weight loss clients before, go out and work with a couple of people for free. Try some different ways. But I know we do tend to say that if someone's paying, you're going to get better results. But sometimes the best result is just, or the best payment is just to put themselves forward for it. It's actually a bit of a different thing with weight loss, because they're putting themselves on the line for it. But I'm sure with your training and wording and everything else, just that value can be made through words too. So yeah. And yeah, thank you very much everyone for joining us. It's been a great chat, and thank you to Sally and Irene coming up to share them little bits. If you have friends in the hypnosis community, please do make them aware of us. We're here every Thursday, 9 till 10 p.m, chatting about all different sorts of subjects. And it'll be really great to see some more people too. But most importantly, thank you for joining us all. Adam, to summarize, have you got anything?
Can hypnosis really help people to lose weight? Yes. I mean, you can't hypnotize people to actually lose the body fat. You can't say when you wake up, you'll be 10 kilos less. But can you get them in a resourceful state? Can you get them feeling that they are empowered to make different choices? Can you get them feeling good about making choices, therefore that they're encouraged to do them consistently? Can you get them believing in themselves? Can you get them, picturing a compelling future of them, doing all the things they want to do with more energy and, all that kind of stuff? Totally you can. So, can hypnosis really help people lose weight? Undoubtedly it can. And I think, look, we're in an industry where we're competing with bariatric surgeons that are mutilating bodies and internal organs. We're competing with the pharmaceutical industry that is using kind of highly addictive substances to help people losing weight. We're competing with the food industry that has got cheap, highly addictive food that spikes people's insulin levels. So there needs to be more of us equipped to help people have healthy bodies and high levels of confidence and self-esteem. Can hypnosis help people lose weight? Yes, we just need more people out there doing it. So that's a challenge for all of you. We need to help have a healthier kind of population.
Excellently put there, Adam. And as we say every week, if there is a subject, something you want to talk about, please just send one of us a message. We'll have a discussion offline and we'll look to get it in as soon as possible. And we may even get you to host it. So if there's a subject you enjoy talking about that we haven't mentioned before as well, and you fancy just come up on stage and have a good old chinwag, then please do get a hold of us and we look forward to it. So everyone, please do have a great week. We'll see you all again next Thursday. And take care. Cheerio, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Look to get it in as soon as possible. And we may even get you to host it. So if there's a subject you enjoy talking about that we haven't mentioned before as well, and you fancy just come up on stage and have a good old chinwag,